Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to the next session here for we're like halfway through the official second day of Dare to Be Great for Era of the Headset. And I've got my good friend Kelly Chess here, and she is going to be doing a session called First Party Suicidal Callers. Let's talk about it. This is going to be a good
Let's
one. I'm so
let's
happy
talk
to have you
about it.
here. Yeah,
Thanks,
exactly.
thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Take it away, my
Hi
friend.
everyone. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started here. I first probably should introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Kelly Chess. I am a frontline 911 dispatcher with Jefferson County 911 Communications here in Kansas. Alongside my girl Roxy and Sabrina, also representing at the Dare to Be Great 4. And I've been here for 16 years. Ooh, I can't believe it's been that long. I've literally grown up here. Some of the positions that I hold is CTO. I am the medical QAer, and I also fiddle with the TAC position a little bit. Yeah, so that's a little bit about my career here and how I got started. As you can see on the screen, those are my two beautiful daughters, Emery and Ashley. And then I also have a wonderful, handsome husband at home, but he didn't want to make an appearance on my presentation. So let's see. Let's start out with why I wanted to present on a topic such as this. When I started my career 16 years ago, the protocol that was in place was we do Pro QA here through Priority Dispatch, and just the medical side of things. We do our own police and fire, but we do the medical for liability reasons, as I'm sure most other departments do. And initially, if you were to take a suicidal person call, you would start out with the medical aspect of it, and you'd open Pro QA and you would say, what's the address of the emergency? What's the telephone number you're calling from? Okay, tell me exactly what happened. And then if the person is suicidal, you go right into, are you feeling violent? Are you armed with any weapons? Those are all very important key questions. But when I ran into that problem, it became a very different scenario for me. So I was my first year of dispatching. I was released on my own about 4 or 5 months after training. We actually do have a really good training program here. And I had taken a 911 call from a guy named Bruce. And Bruce is not his real name, but that's just what we're using for the presentation. And I picked up Jefferson County 911, what's your emergency? And his very first sentence to me or statement was, I'm going to kill myself and I want you to get my wife on the phone because I want her to hear the gunshot when it goes off. I don't, honestly, after being here 16 years, I'm not too sure. I still wouldn't freeze up just a tad hearing that initially when you pick up that phone. So I did freeze though. Of course, brand new dispatcher. And I thought, okay, go back to your training. Let's open up Pro QA. And I said, what's the location of the emergency? And well, he didn't want to cooperate. He didn't want to tell me where he was. He had direct orders, get my wife on the phone. I'm going to kill myself and I want her to hear the gunshot when it goes off. And I said, okay, well, 16 years ago, we didn't have the type of technology that we do now with mapping. I honestly had no idea where he was at when he called. So I went ahead to proceed on with the phone call and attempted to get his phone number and verify it. He did not want to verify it. And I said, okay, tell me exactly what happened. He said, I already told you I'm going to kill myself, get my wife on the phone. I knew that I wasn't getting anywhere with him trying to do the medical protocol that was in place at my department at the time. So fortunately, we did keep him on the phone for a little while. We did call his wife. She told us where he had left, where he was possibly en route to, so we could kind of narrow it down also, get a vehicle description from her. So it was helpful that we did call the wife. Unfortunately, though, when we did catch up with him, law enforcement caught up with him, basically, which could have been handled as a check welfare. And I still had Bruce on the phone at the time. And I said, just go ahead and pull over. You've done nothing wrong. The officers just want to talk to you. And he had pulled over the vehicle. He said, no, it's too late. And when he was surrounded by, Kansas Highway Patrol and our law enforcement officers and other assisting agencies, he decided to take his own life while he was on the phone with me, and I heard the gunshot go off. So, needless to say, I was super frustrated after that phone call. I really didn't feel like, well, one, I wanted to blame the training, right? Oh, well, I wasn't trained on any of this. I feel like I was, you know, just guessing on what to say. But really, in that type of situation, how do you train? So that was a question that I had asked myself, and I was upset. I was mad about it. Um, I was sad about the whole situation. I felt like I could have done more. I could have said more. And so I went to management and I told them I don't I don't feel like the way that this is set up is something that's going to work when you're in the hot seat and you're having to deal with someone in that mental state of mind during that momentary crisis that they're in. So they took my pleas, my pleads for help, and they sent me to a hostage negotiations suicidal subject class. And I took that through Mark, which I'm sure most of you have heard. Mark is very well known for 911 dispatch training as well as law enforcement and all that stuff. So I went to this 3-day course. It was absolutely amazing. However, it didn't line up with what our protocol was. So I took the time, I came back, I was super gung ho. I was feeling good about that was an excellent training. And I sat down for probably a good week and I wrote all of this stuff out in a book, which I made right here, right there. This is my little suicidal protocol book. And and I presented it. Once I had my shit in one basket, I presented it to management and I said, I just really feel like we need to build a rapport with these callers instead of jumping right into the medical pro QA of stuff because I just don't feel that there's a strong enough connection. It's taken away my compassion, my empathy. I feel like a robot. And they listened to me and we got protocol changed. So that's what I'm sharing with you is what we now do in our department. So that's one thing. That's one reason why I'm here and one reason that sparked my interest in this. Also, my personal struggles with growing up with a mother, my biological mother, who has now been diagnosed bipolar. She When I was younger, she was in my life from, of course, when I was born until I was about 12 years old. She's a severe alcoholic and still to this day active drug addict, and we don't have a relationship. But I do remember growing up with her while she struggled with her mental health. And there were two incidences that really stuck with me. And one was when I was 7 years old. I found her unconscious, foaming at the mouth on the couch. And I didn't know what was wrong. How I knew to call 911, I really don't know, but I did, and they showed up. And when my mom came home from the hospital several days later, she was very open and honest with me and said, I'm struggling with my mental health. I took a bunch of pills and I tried to kill myself. At 7 years old, that was a lot to take in, and I wasn't quite sure I understood exactly to the extent of what her mental health was at and just how sad she was. But I did my best as a 7-year-old to be there for her. Through her divorce with my father and several boyfriends that came in and out, during another one of her breakups, she had taken another chance to take her own life, and I happened to be home with her again. It was just us two at home, and I had found her under a pile of laundry after she had sliced her wrist, and and was bleeding. And again, I had to call 911 for that. So between Bruce, career-wise, and home life, I don't know. I've just kind of picked up this whole passion for this, and I wanted to be the person who was there for the other person on the other end of the line to show that I was empathetic and compassionate for them, and that, you know, if we can just get you through this momentary crisis, then we can get you on till tomorrow. I mean, really, it's I know that, you know, your mental health is bad, but I want to see you through this, even though you can't see me. I'm just a voice, and that can be hard sometimes. So, how do we do that? What's our new protocol? We're gonna dip right into this. First of all, just some myths about suicide. Most of them you guys have probably already heard. Suicide peaks over the holidays. Even though it may seem like sometimes it does, the actual peak in suicide is actually in the spring months, believe it or not. And they believe that maybe after studies and stuff, they believe that that's due to, you know, after going through the very low, cold months of winter, which plays a huge part on depression. Anyone who suffers from depression knows that. That all of a sudden, you know, things start warming up, and then you have more pressure on you to come out of that hole, that dark hole that you've been in for 3, 4, 5 months. And they think that maybe that has something to do with it. Another myth is putting ideas in people's heads. When someone seems depressed, their loved ones may fear asking if they're having suicidal thoughts, worrying it will put the idea in their head. So like I said in the beginning of the presentation, can I say the word suicide or ask a suicidal person if they are suicidal? Or will that make them take that final leap and actually do it? I don't know about you, but to me, growing up, you know, in the 80s and 90s, it was very cliche. We didn't say the word suicide. We didn't really talk about suicide. And that's a myth. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, they're calling you 911 as a 911 dispatcher. They're calling you for help, no matter what it may be. During my 911 call with Bruce, he wanted his wife to hear it. Could things have possibly changed had he actually talked to her? I don't know, but he felt like he was too far into it to actually turn around. Which leads me into suicidal talk is just attention seeking. Now, I'm not saying that all suicidal talk is or is not just attention seeking. Some do it just to in the moment, whether it be in anger or whatnot. Bruce had a plan, and he knew what he wanted, and he knew that was going to be his last night. Nothing I said or I did made him do it. And I honestly lay my head down at night, and I know that Bruce had his own intentions that night. Most people leave a note. They don't usually leave a note. After studies, it shows that only 0 to 40% leave a note on that, which, you know, can leave families and loved ones left with a lot of questions. Suicide is inevitable. Many people believe that a suicidal person will find a way to die no matter what. This argument is used by those opposed to suicide barriers, like the Golden Gate Bridge, for example. More than 90% of people who commit suicide have diagnosable mental health problems. So I don't know what was going on in Bruce's mind that night. I really don't. I don't know if it was fixable, but it shows here that 90% of people do. People who attempt suicide and survive will not attempt suicide again. That is false. Most of them do attempt, and some even attempt until they actually get the job done. Young people never think about suicide. They have their entire life ahead of them. That's not true. Suicide is the third leading cause of death for young people ages 15 to 24. So with some myths, here's some quick facts. Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death in the United States. In 2021, over 47,000 people died by suicide. In the same year, over 1 million attempts were made. The rate of suicide is highest in the middle-aged white men, and third leading cause of death in 15 to 24-year-olds. On average, there are 125 suicide deaths in the US every single day. That's a suicide death every 11.5 minutes. So, what are some warning signs to look for? And you can use this. Maybe you have a close friend or even family members who suffer from mental health and depression and have had suicidal tendencies or ideations before. Research indicates a number of risk factors for suicide, and some of these common signs to look for are verbal suicide threats such as "you'd be better off without me" or "maybe I won't be around." They may show expressions of hopelessness or just flat out say, "I'm done feeling, I'm done caring, I'm exhausted, I can't go on anymore." Someone who's made previous suicide attempts, daring or risk-taking behavior, personality changes, and of course, depression coincides with all that. And then they may even be giving away some prized possessions, like their 1951 Chevy truck or something that they've held on to, worked hard at, and now they want someone else to have that nice thing that they did or have, because that's their way of saying, "I'm out, I'm done, I can't do this, someone else take care of it." So this is going to lead us into the story of Kevin Hines. Kevin Hines jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and he actually survived. Unfortunately, due to YouTube restrictions, it wouldn't let me play the original video that I have in this presentation. So I'm going to have to play this one, but it's a really good example of kind of what mental state they're in right before they do it or attempt to do it or saying that they're going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Ricardo, whenever you're ready.
All right, just one moment. I'm going to pull it up on the screen, actually.
Okay. Do you want me to hit play or you hit play? I guess if we covered that, I wasn't listening. I wasn't active listening, which is my next segment.
Yeah, hold on one moment.
Okay.
Just going to try something really quick here.
Sure.
All right, so I'm going to have to drop yours to share one from my end. So hold on one moment. And then you'll just have to share yours again.
Okay. It share what?
Hold on. Yeah, you'll have to share your presentation again here in just one moment, though. Hold on one second.
Okay, sure.
You can watch the best parts of this series at medcircle.com. Kevin Hines is a public speaker, a doting husband, and a great son. He's also living with bipolar 1 disorder and chronic suicidality. His book, Cracked Not Broken, chronicles what life looked like before his diagnosis, before proper mental health treatment, and how he attempted suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. His story is unlike any you've heard. This is the Kevin Hines series. Kevin, do you know why today is so significant?
I didn't even think about it right now. Today's the anniversary of the day I attempted to take my life off the Golden Gate Bridge. I didn't even think about it until you said it.
Why do you think you didn't think about it till now?
You know, Kyle, for the most part, I have closure, you know? I mean, my dad took me back to the bridge a year later to the date of my anniversary. And we stood at the very light rail that I attempted, I knew exactly which light rail it was, and I don't say it aloud because I don't want people to get ideas, but we stood there and he had me on the drive there. He pulls over right in front of the police officers union building, right near Clement and Park Presidio in San Francisco, if you know that area. And all these police were in their full dress blues in the windows. All their cars were lined up in the parking lot and their bikes. And he goes, Kevin, pick a flower. I'm like, Dad, I'm not picking a flower from the police officers union building in San Francisco. You get arrested. He goes, pick a flower, Kevin. Jump out, grab a purple tulip with yellow inside. We go to the bridge. We get to the parking lot. I don't want to get out of the car. I don't want to get out of the car. Dad, I can't do this. I can't do this. Kevin, we need this. You have to do this. We need closure. I said, Dad, you need closure. I need to go home and lay down. He said, no, Kevin, we're doing this. So we walk out to the bridge and he says, show me where. And I showed him the exact light rail like it was the day before, like it happened the day before. We hold the flower over the rail. My father grabs my left hand with his right. We say in Our Father. And he says, drop the flower. I dropped the flower. It wafted down and hit the water and made the tiniest ripple effects. And 2 feet to the right, popped up a sea lion. And it was arguably the most beautiful moment I've ever had with my dad, besides him being the best man at my wedding.
And the sea lion has a lot of significance that we will get into in
Yeah.
this series. For people who don't know you, you have become one of the world leaders of suicide awareness, of mental health advocacy. Why have you dedicated your life to this cause?
Kyle, I often say in my speeches, I've been in pain since the day I was born. Born in squalor in the Tenderloin of San Francisco, in the worst neighborhood then, the worst neighborhood today, in what they called a crack motel. It was a rough life for me in my beginning. And when you have that traumatic infancy, it never leaves you. And it follows you your whole life. And it had a great deal to do with my breakdown at 17 and my development of bipolar disorder, which both my biological parents had before me. And to answer your question, I dedicate my life, sometimes 300, 320 days a year, to this cause because I want to help people who are in that devastating brain pain find the will to stay. At least, Kyle, I want to try my hardest to do that, to help people recognize their value, that they are worthy, and that suicide is never the solution to their problem. It is the problem.
Very well said. Well, I'm very excited to get into this series. I've finished reading your book, as most everybody here has, Cracked, Not Broken. Really excellent information in there, but also such a fascinating read. It was a read that kept me going. I didn't feel like I was reading a textbook or anything. I felt like I was reading a man's story. So it's an honor to meet you and have you here. I think that people are going to watch this and become instant Kevin Hines fans if they're not already. And perhaps even more important, they will walk away with tools and an education that they didn't have before. So we'll be back next week as we go through your book, you and I. I'm very excited. We'll talk about your childhood. We'll talk about the high school and college years, your speaking career. Of course, we'll talk about your trials, your tribulations, and your successes. And we'll talk about that sea lion too.
Yeah.
I see it on your shirt already.
Yeah.
His name is Herbert.
His name is Herbert.
Yeah.
And he saved my life.
There you go. I love it. Thanks for watching. Your next step is to go to medcircle.com and finish watching this series. There you can also access other series and get actionable advice and simple explanations. Continue your mental health journey at medcircle.com, and I'll see you there.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Watch the best parts of
Let me pull up my. I don't share. Okay. We good to go again?
Go for it.
Okay, good. All right. So I'm a little bummed that YouTube had put limitations on me being able to just share that. But if you get a chance, if you haven't seen it before, the Kevin Hines story, it's the BuzzFeed video is really good. It goes into his story from the moment he woke up that day to the second he jumped off the bridge, how he had an instant regret that he had jumped. And then the fact that he had lived through it, he went through tons of surgeries just to walk again, talk again, and now he goes around, like he said, and presents to people how important they are, and that suicide isn't the answer, it's the problem. And he also explains in that video that right before he was about to jump, a lady had stopped and asked him, "Can you take a picture of me by the bridge?" And he said it was at that moment that he felt not a single person cared about him or even knew he existed. And so as a 911 dispatcher, how do we prevent that feeling when they call for help, that we don't have, what can we say to help prevent that person from thinking no one cares, this is it for me? That's where you got to dig deep in your cold little dispatcher heart and really find that compassion and empathy for the ones who are calling. You may just be a voice, but in that moment, you may be the voice that pulls them out of that dark space in just that moment of a momentary crisis. Okay, so when you get a chance, check out the BuzzFeed video of Kevin Hines. Amazing little 5-minute video and very good. So the first part of establishing and building a rapport with your caller, and when they call in and they're in this momentary crisis and they feel like they've reached the end of their rope and this is it, the first thing you want to do is to build a rapport, and you want to focus on building a rapport. And how those blocks are built are first by labeling emotions with your caller, and also using active listening, which I sucked at in the green room with Ricardo. We got through it okay. And then again, being empathetic. Those are going to be your key factors in building that trust, right? Because that's what a rapport is. You want that person to be able to trust you. So labeling emotions. You sound defeated. You sound overwhelmed. You sound like, you feel like you can't go on anymore. I hear tremendous sadness in your voice. That's what labeling emotions are. And it goes beyond, in my in-person class, I hand out emotional label sheet with some other words other than sad, mad, glad, happy, that kind of stuff. It's nice to try and get down to the nitty-gritty of exactly what you hear them saying and try to feel what they're feeling. So active listening, you want to ask open-ended questions, repeat the caller's last statement. You want to use I messages. Now also, not only use I messages, like I sense this, I hear this. We all know this stuff, right? Basic tools for active listening. But I also really like when you use we. If you use the words we and replace the I with we, then that makes it feel like there's a connection between you two. We are going to get through this together. We are going to get you some help. And that makes a huge impact, believe it or not. You want to use effective pauses. So let them finish their sentences. Don't cut them off and talk over them. Summarize what was just said and then repeat it. I understand that you and your wife are going through a really bad divorce. She took the kids. I'm really sorry that you're going through that right now. But we're gonna do our best to try and keep you safe until help can get there, okay? You want to be empathetic, non-judgmental, and open-minded. Use a calming tone of voice, which is understanding and soft, and listen to understand, not respond. That works at work and it works at home. Even if you're having a dispute with your teenage daughter, Lord knows I've had a few of those, I do try to listen to them and understand before responding with an instant reaction to what they just said. So there is an example of bad listening skills. I didn't go over this video with Ricardo, so I'm not too sure if you'll be able to hear it, but it's kind of funny. Robin Williams, he's sitting there with his therapist, and while he's talking to him about his struggles that he's going through, this, that, and the other, the doctor goes and grabs a cup of coffee and he's stirring in his sugar and he's basically just not active listening. Well, as Robin Williams continues to talk and pick up on this, he eventually just drops a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense just to see if he is listening. And then the doctor looks up and he's like, what? So it is funny. But anyways, maybe next time. So what are some good questions to ask? A lot of the time as 911 dispatchers, we are in a position where we have to keep our caller on the phone and we want to keep them safe until help can get there. So how do we fill that space when we have a location, a phone number, and all that stuff, and we're waiting for officers, for the ambulance, for everyone to arrive on scene to protect this person from harming themselves or others? What are some things that we can ask in order to fill that space while building a rapport? How can we keep you safe right now? I love that question because chances are this person has thought about it, planned it, or tried before. Well, you're talking to them, so at some point they got through it. So it's always a good time to ask, or a good question to ask, how can we keep you safe right now? Are you going to commit suicide? It's okay to talk about it. Most of the time, people who are serious about taking their own life have thought about it. They have a full plan in place. Do you have a plan for committing suicide? If so, what is that plan? How long have you been planning this? How long have you been feeling this way? Have you ever thought about killing yourself before? If so, then when? And what stopped you? So how can we keep you safe right now? How did you stay safe last time? What got you through? Have you ever tried to kill yourself before and what happened? Have you been drinking or using drugs? And can you describe how you have played this out in your head? It is always good for officer safety and EMS to know if the person has been drinking or using drugs. Sometimes it can be kind of a defensive question to ask, and it may make them defensive. So just kind of know where you're at in the conversation with your caller. Do you have a good conversation going to where you feel comfortable enough to ask that? But also keep in mind officer safety and such. So you'll want to focus on the specific situation that caused the person to feel suicidal in that momentary crisis and talk openly about the finality of death. Identify what is meaningful to the caller, and these are what you call your hooks. So while you're asking these questions, what led up to this? Let's say Suzanne, she's 82 years old. She just found out she has cancer. She feels like she has no family and no one cares. And so now we want to talk about the finality of death. Suzanne, if you take your life, I understand you have cancer. That's terrible. I mean, even bring up, maybe you can relate to that or something you've gone through personally. A family member who had it. How did you guys get through? How did you find that hope? It's a good way to connect with your callers. So establish a hook. Now, somebody's hook could be family, could be their pets, could be their career, their kids, their parents, their siblings, friends, their spouse or significant other, or even possessions. And then once you have a hook in place, you can ask some more questions and get a little bit deeper to where you can actually talk about the finality of death and kind of switch that mindset. That's what you're hoping to do anyways. So an example would be, if you killed yourself, who would take care of your kids? What about the hardships your loved ones will go through? What about your morals and religious and ethical reservations? So if this person, has said, well, the last time my mother took me to church, and and then I felt really good for a few weeks and I was doing all right, and now I feel really bad again, and I feel like, this is it because I'm feeling it again. Now you know that that person does hold some type of religious morals and values. So you could always use that as well. How do you think your mother or father will deal with the fact that you've killed yourself? If you kill yourself, you will never see your kids grow up, graduate, get married, or have kids. And you've told me you've made some pretty important breakthroughs in your job. If you killed yourself, you'll never have that satisfaction again. Now, you were telling me about, I put in here, hobby. You're pretty proud of that hobby. What happens to the hobby if you die? That kind of falls along the lines of personal possessions. And then what about a pet name? Who will take care of, your dog, and they will have to put the dog down. So, I mean, it's okay to talk about these things. Why? Because sometimes they get they're so deep in their thought process and depression that they can't think outside of that tunnel to remember what is important to them before they ended up in this crisis. Once you're dead, you're not going to get another chance. If you killed yourself to get back at so-and-so, all that's going to happen is that you'll be dead. We can't be sure of so-and-so's reaction, and so-and-so may not care at all. So-and-so wins, and you're dead, and so gets to go on with their lives. I mean, that's literally like a full-blown script right there. I guess right now you want to get away from the hurt, but dying by whatever way, dying by taking a whole bottle of pills is pretty painful. Let's talk about some other way to get the pain out of your life. Not everyone who attempts to kill themselves dies. You could end up in worse shape, paralyzed, in severe pain, like our buddy Kevin. And what do you want to have happen? What would need to happen for you to feel better, feel like you could go on? And what do you think you could do that would not make it hurt so much? What has worked in the past? So the reason why I wrote all these out or typed all these out to share with you guys is because this really can keep, and they're all open-ended questions, right? You want to ask open-ended questions to keep them talking, keep their mind busy until help can get there, because really that's your only goal in that moment, is to keep your person safe until help arrives. All right, we have reached the next video. Ricardo, you're gonna have to help me with this. We'll do the same way we did before. This one I share, it's very, 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 very powerful. But what I love in it is that the guy who's doing the poetry reading, the speech, he really puts some good, like encouraging words on what to tell someone or say to someone who's going through that crisis in that moment. So that's why I wanted to share this with you.
Since this one is only audio, I'll be able to share the audio without you having to take it down. So don't worry about that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So hold on one moment.
Thank you.
Got that gun in your hand, you got that knife, you got them pills. I need you to throw it all down. I need you to burn the ships of the past so you can focus on your beautiful future. I need you to stop covering pain with drugs, because it's only like putting bricks on a shallow shelf. Eventually it's going to fall back on you. Not cover it up. I simply want to tell you, keep going. I just want to tell you today that you are amazing, that you are strong. I want you to know that you're not alone, because I too fight these demons every day. See, many people don't know the pain of losing a parent. It's like literally losing a piece of your body, piece of your soul, piece of your heart, piece of your mind. We miss the scent, we miss the smiles, we miss the jokes, we just miss them. And every day we got to get up and pretend like we're happy. We got to get up like everything's okay, but we're dying inside. And what these inner cities has created is, we created babies that's burying their mothers and fathers before they become men and women. And they have no psychiatrist. They have no help. They have nobody that cares. So these poor babies must go on in the valley of life and fight without knowing the lessons, without knowing anything. They got to keep going. And then they hit this pain they never felt before. Called mental depression. See, the scary thing about mental depression is you cannot see it. It is invisible. It shows up in people with beautiful smiles, and it shows up in people with nice jobs and a regular life, and you never know the battle. Life is long. Life is hard. But it's worth it. See, I went through this. I had a beautiful dream that I finally had saved my mother. When I woke up, my uncle walked in the room and said, "Will, your mother passed of heroin." My queen. Person I worked for my entire life. My heartbeat. Gone. I want to tell you this. I too felt that pain. I too felt that suicide. I too felt that mental depression. I once stood in a place with a gun to my head and said, I do not want to live anymore. My mother's gone. My father's nowhere to be found. Why should I live? But I got a whisper from God. And what God spoke was, he said, Will, don't do it. Your life is just getting started. When I heard this whisper, the clouds broke apart and the sun started to rise. As I started to cry, the sun started to drop my tears. It was almost as if God was saying, it's okay, my son. When I realized this very thing, that God did not punish me. He simply let a child that wasn't able to be a child live again. So when you see me, anywhere you see me, doing this for something bigger than myself, I'm doing this for you. And for every child, woman, or man that lost somebody, I want you to look in the mirror today. I want you to say their names. And I want you to repeat after me. Live through me. I need you to make sure word the name. I need you to make sure you represent them well. And I need to make sure you understand this. Life is long. Life is hard. But it's worth it. Worth it. Live.
There's hope. These feelings you have will pass, and help is available.
Okay, so super emotional. That one usually gets me teary-eyed. Every time I hear it, it usually makes others, especially the in-person ones, very, very powerful. But it's positive, and you know, you just got to work through it with them. Like I said, the whole we factor. So let me go ahead and flip over here. It is important to know that when an attempt has been made and you get that 911 call where they've already taken the pills or they tried to shoot themselves in the head and either they missed or only partially and they end up calling 911, it's happened. It's very, very important that you go ahead and start the medical protocol in which your department has. We're not so worried about building a rapport at that time, right? We need to get that person some medical help as soon as possible. So does your PSAP have a suicidal caller protocol in place? Our dispatch center moves straight to ProQA after the address and phone number has been verified if someone has made an attempt. All right, so Ricardo, how are we on time? Can I just skim through this real quick?
You're good to go. Take your time.
Okay, all right.
We've got 15 minutes between each session, so you're good.
Okay, good. I just wanted to touch on chemical suicide real quick. This is super short. Have you ever heard of chemical suicide? Has your department ever dealt with a chemical suicide situation? If so, how did it go? Do you have a protocol in place? And do you treat this as a hazmat situation? So chemical suicide, you want to protect your first responders as a 911 dispatcher. Chemical suicide was introduced into the United States in 2008, and it continued to be on the rise. This method of suicide started in Japan in 2007, where they have seen over 2,000 cases. I don't know if you've heard of suicide forest or something like that. Suicide is very, very prominent in Japan. But they advertised the chemical suicide method, chemical suicide method as a way to die easily and beautifully. So chemical suicide is also known as detergent suicide. It involves mixing common household chemicals containing acids and sulfur to create a deadly hydrogen sulfide gas, which is lethal if inhaled. And it contained areas such as a vehicle, a closet, bathroom, and these types of calls should be handled as a hazmat situation. So here's just some common household chemicals that have been used previously. I'm sure there's more to add to the list. This is just what I had put down in the presentation. We're going to go skip that. Dispatcher's role. So as a 911 call taker, you can initiate an immediate intervention. Careful evaluation of any situation involving an unresponsive person in an enclosed space is very critical for your responder safety. The call taker needs to be alert to quickly determine if this reported situation presents a danger. It's very likely that when a call comes in, the PSAP, the victim is already dead. So at this point, you need to protect the first responders and your caller. So you should ask the caller the following questions if chemical suicide is suspected. Is the person inside the vehicle unresponsive? Can you see a suicide note? And then instructions, do not open the vehicle to look. This is a picture of a man who decided to take his life in a manhole using chemicals. Another warning sign would be, are there any warning signs around the vehicle taped to the windows? So not all chemical suicide scenes will have warning notes, but their goal is not to kill anyone else other than themselves. So a lot of times you will see notes like this: do not enter. They may have hazmat signage, use caution, poison, do not open the door. Another sign of chemical being present is, can you smell rotten eggs or sulfur? Some callers may smell it immediately and others may not. Or does it smell like burnt almonds or have a bitter smell? So the smell of bitter almonds usually indicates the presence of hydrogen cyanide. So any type of odd smells you want to ask your caller about. Here's some scenes of some chemical suicides when they've used the vehicle. Just normal household stuff, but it definitely looks like a scene from science hour at high school. So indicators of chemical suicide, you'll see empty household cleaning containers on the floorboard or seat, one or more large buckets to mix the solution in. Vehicle's inside door handles may have been removed. This prevents the person who decided to take their own life from opening the door once they're sealed in. You may see yellow or green or white residue on the seats or on the dashboard. Also, pennies or change may turn green. Duct tape over the air vents, that way air can't get in. And then the windows may be fogged with a yellow-green residue, same as change and stuff in the console if you see that. And then all, tools to mix the chemicals will be present as well. So here's some contacts, references that I have. These are mostly all 1-800 numbers. Of course, I added the 988 in there, which is the direct 3-digit that takes place of the easier number to dial other than the 1-800-273-TALK. And then some text lines as well. Suicidal law enforcement, safe call now, cop line, and then I added poison control on there as well. So just to wrap it up, when talking to a first-party suicidal caller, you'll want to be yourself. The right words are unimportant to your caller. What is important is that you listen to your caller and you be empathetic. You want to ask open-ended questions. Keep your caller on the line until help can arrive. Be sympathetic, non-judgmental, patient, and calm. Remember, talking about suicide is not going to put the idea in someone's head. Talking about suicide openly is what your caller needs. It's a cry for help. Simply talking to someone about their problems may be all they need to get through that momentary crisis. And remember that people who suffer with mental health is the same as anyone suffering from any other diseased organ. They too get tired and their body chemistry changes. So I know it's kind of a bummer to talk about this kind of stuff, but we gotta talk about this stuff. I do have a funny video after that. It just is some funny Paradise PD 911 calls, but we're gonna go ahead and skip that. And does anyone have any questions or anything for me? I'd be more than happy to answer or share. Here's my contact information right there.
All right, so I was checking the QA section over here. Doesn't look like there are any questions there, but a
Okay.
lot of comments and everything.
Yeah.
If you're able to, actually, you were able to see those that were coming through and everything. So they're all there.
Yeah.
I would definitely go back and look at them again. so that you can have a
Sure.
chance to take it in as well. But you've got everybody here saying great job, great information, amazing information. It was all
Yay.
very good. And the clip that you were talking about with Robin Williams, I found it and I put it in the Discord for the Dare to Be Great
Oh, good.
channel. So it's in there. And actually what I can do as
Good.
well is add both of those clips from earlier in there as well. If you can send me a message with the information on the one that you wanted to share, I'll find it and I'll put it in there.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Then everybody will be able to go in there and check it out as well. But as you were talking about some other things, and I found that clip, I was listening to it and I started to chuckle because I remembered I remembered I remember that movie and I remembered that scene. And he says,
Yeah.
my uncle, this and that. He at least listened, and the doctor
Yeah.
is just there, like, okay, and then he
Yeah, the
starts saying a
doctor's
bunch
like,
of off the wall
huh?
shit. Yes.
Yeah, he talks about like shooting to the moon with a fart or something like that.
Right. Yes.
It's kind of funny.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I have it in there just to kind of break it up a little bit because this subject can be somewhat of a downer, but
Yeah, but
unfortunately, it's something that
right. It's everything
we go
that
through.
we work with. Yeah, work with, go through, and to be able to talk with
Yeah.
people and everything. It's very much needed. So again, thank you. Hold on here. So Ashley says he could at least get to Uranus
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, Ashley got it with the fart.
with the fart.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yes. So if you've not
It
seen
is.
that
That
clip,
is really
or
good.
if you want to check out all the other clips and everything, I'm going to make sure to put them in there in that in the Dare to Be Great channel there in Discord. So
Yes.
again, thank you, Kelly, so very much for doing this,
Absolutely.
for being a
Thank you
speaker.
for having me. Everyone, thank you for sticking it out with me and
Of
paying
course.
attention through all that.
Of course. It is always good and always fun to have you on here. For everyone who
Thank
is
you.
here, I'm going to be, we're going to switch over to the next one, and I'll bring you there. So don't worry, I'll bring you there. But if you want to use the schedule to go there yourself, you can do that as well. Whichever, however you want to do it. But either way, there's been an excellent day going on so far, and we've got much more to go and more powerful sessions. So we will see you in the next one here in just a moment.